All right, everybody's saying sound is good, so thank you very much, Karen.
You are welcome, sir.
You have a good day.
Have a wonderful day.
You do the same.
Take care. Bye.
All right, we're back at the helm. Thanks for waiting here. Karen was fantastic. She knew absolutely everything she was doing. Speedy, fast, that's the way text is. So, chart is too big already. Now we got some more adjustments here, and then we'll be right back in. All right, how's that for a chart size now? Yes, thanks to Karen. So for those of you who just got, just want to apologize. We had just a little adjustment, and we can start. Fantastic. So let's kick this thing off here. So welcome everyone. Round 2 of the weather report here. We're going to be going over, we actually have some clear skies on several different pairs, and we're going to be talking about both intraday setups and upcoming setups and day trading setups and swing trading setups. We have some swingers here, so that's for sure. And so we're going to talk about, we're going to start with our yen pairs because that's what the Ichimoku Cloud is hottest for. For those of you that this is your first time, this is a class on Ichimoku trading, how to use the cloud to really determine where to get in these powerful moves and where we can move from out. And so most recently, the yen pairs all just had a sudden explosion, pretty much, in price action there. And the Ichimoku was actually fantastic for catching this thing here. So take a look here. We pretty much had a little bit of a dip in the cloud, but we never quite broke it. We had a nice little crossover right about when this thing broke this nice little range here, which is fantastic. So not only were we above the cloud with the resistance, but we had the crossover right about here, and boom, caught this nice little move here. So we're still technically in this move right now. The beautiful thing about it is the EMA is rising. All the lines are rising here. So at this point, you know, you could have, if you were in this move, based on how I taught it last week, and you caught this move this morning, you could definitely take some profit right now. And then if you wanted to, you could do a couple things with your stop. You could wait for a crossover of the Tenkan and the Kijun line, and let's make that a little bit bigger so you can see that. There we go. So you can make your stop, you can have the trailing stop when the white crosses over the red, or if you want to go even a little bit further, a more advanced exit, you can wait till we get a break of the Tenkan line. So that is one of the things sometimes we will see is that if you get a decent break below the Tenkan line, it can be a very, very powerful break that often finds its way to the Kijun line there, basically. So, but they're all kind of moving up in a general direction, which is very supportive of this right now. So if you were using this technique from last week as I taught it, you'd be in a nice little trade right now, definitely making some profit on this one here. So we would be in this one. And you're going to see as I go around the yen horns here that a lot of the yen pairs activated the same signal all at the same time. Maybe this one didn't. The euro yen was kind of lagging here on this one here, so you'd probably be a little bit behind on this one here. But I think pound yen gave us one moving around the yen horns here. So pound yen got a little bit of a break here, maybe on this one here. It's now sitting at cloud support. So when would this be a trade that we'd no longer want to be in it? When it probably breaks these two lines right here and the 20 EMA all in one. But we're seeing as we go around the yen pairs, they just got all of a sudden really excited. Same thing here. This was a good one now. The Aussie yen had a nice little break here. Now we're sitting back at cloud support, so hopefully you locked in something at this point. Seems like on an intraday level, it should find some sort of support here. We have a nice convergence of three lines. We have a convergence of the Tenkan line, the Kijun line, the 20 EMA, and the cloud right here. Now, if this pair were to dip inside, and it's also at a round number here, so this is kind of a very critical level for this pair. If this all were to break all of a sudden, have a nice little hourly close or 30-minute close inside here, then that would mean we'd want to be out of the trade because we're back in the cloud and we can't really see well inside the cloud here whether this would be good or not. This would be a no trade or a no fly zone basically. And so, yes, we're going to get to CAD yen in just a second here. I want to kick off the Kiwi yen as well. Oh, CAD yen's in line next. So there we go. Let's get this one in. CAD yen was excellent at this one right here, especially with the dollar CAD having a little bit of fall today. Also, breaking Euro CAD and Aussie CAD also all supported this. But bottom line is this thing had a nice little crossover here. Price already broken the cloud before, so we'd be getting in as soon as the crossover happened. And on this candle, boom, you're in it. So here we go. Also, you have nice supportive with momentum. And at this point, you could probably lock in some profit, and then you could use these little lines as your trailing stop on the second lot if you are doing 2 lots on this one here. So all of them right now. What is building up now? Which pair are you looking at right here? You talking about the CAD yen here, Andrew? Any right now? Of course. Of course. Yes, I know. What trades can I give you right now? That's the major question. Well, if we taught this about 3 hours earlier, I'd have about 10 trades for you. Now I'm down to a few. So let's get into the ones I do have for you. Okay, not this one. I want the ones I have for you. Euro pound forming. Now remember, Andrew, the other thing about, yeah, exactly, darn. The main thing I want you to know is I'm trying to teach you how to use it, so this way you don't need me at the helm necessarily to give you all the trades, basically. So if I teach you how to use it, then you can become empowered, and we're going to look at Kiwi dollar, Euro dollar as well. All right, so Euro pound, we're coming close to forming one here. This thing did find support right at the cloud here, basically, and then also we have this potential bullish crossover above the cloud here. So it's not quite there yet. It needs about another 10 or 15 pips to do that. But right now we have a nice convergence of lines, and it sat right there at the 20 EMA, and now it's since gone up since then. So this thing could create a nice little bullish move here, which should create probably moves somewhere to around here, and then a break of that would take us beyond. I think it'd take us to the. Oh, we even have to go back even further. My goodness. There we go. So break up here would probably take us to 8,000. So a good 40, 50 pips in the Euro pound is really like snagging 100. And so that's when right there. You have Ichimoku on VTrader, but the cloud not in the same place. Check your measurements on the cloud. You want it to be 26 and 9, and then also 52 as well. So the -2 means it's being divided by 2. So the default 26 is correct on that one there, because that's the Senku span A. Senku span A measures at 26 periods back, and so that should hopefully answer your question on that one there. The Chiku span does not add much value. That is correct there, Bob. I do not use the Chiku span because I'd rather use the 20 EMA, and I also qualify the trade by where the crossover is happening anyway. So because I do not use the weak signals, I really filter out the need for the Chiku span, and then along with the 20 EMA and the momentum settings, I can use that to really determine if this is going to play out in my favor. And what I say, Boyke's got a great question here. Does the 200 moving average mirror the cloud? No, I don't find that it necessarily does. But you know, it can on certain pairs and it can on certain setups. It probably depend on the nature of that pair. All right, so now let's take a look at some current charts. Euro dollar had the big sell-off today. We've broken below the cloud. How we're trying to do break back above it here. There is a no trade on this one here. It had a crossover above the cloud, so to me this would be a weak signal. And you notice that we haven't had huge follow-through beyond the cloud here. We broke a little bit, came back in, broke a little bit again. So that's why it's a weak signal, because it may not really have. This may be just a minor trade here. We're trying to filter out the false trades from the Ichimoku. That's what it's designed to do. And so Euro dollar on a short-term time frame, not giving us much. However, if we look at a daily chart, it does have some insight. All right, so what is interesting right now is that the Euro dollar is kind of stuck in between the Kijun and the 20 EMA right now. On my website yesterday, I was giving a broadcast, and I said, until we get break above the 20 EMA, this thing's going to have a hard time finding new buyers here. But it is sitting nicely, really nicely at the the Tenkan line right now. But the bottom line is it has a lot of resistance. The line of least resistance is down. There really isn't that much in the way here. However, it's got all these areas of resistance above it here. And so until it breaks this little sandwich here, until it gets out of this little sandwich here and is no longer the pickle or the mustard or the mayo, this thing is going to need to really show itself in one direction or another. Now, one thing to note in terms of a potential setup, if this were to start to get really bullish, well then this 9 EMA, which is the Tenkan line, would start to track pretty fast. And the 26 EMA, the Kijun line, would probably not turn that much. So if we were to have a good 200 pip gain from here, say get to like 56 or 57, well, not only would the break of the 20 may be bullish, but we'd also probably have this tanking line starting to cross up here. That could create another crossover for a move. If we break above, probably I'm guessing would happen right around 157. So if we were to break above all this here, then we could have another run at 160. So you'd want to keep an eye on that one there. There's definitely potential setup in the future. So hopefully that answers your question on euro dollar. Now euro yen, there was nothing on the intraday from what I can remember. But this thing is also stuck right around these lines here. So you're going to want to wait till at least clear something and we get a crossover. Again, we could get a crossover above here if this were to start to get bullish. And if it did that, then we'd probably find again a nice little retest of the 165 handle here. However, the cloud is thin, and so it's not as thick as it was before where it was over here. It's a little bit thin, so that means that it could have a quick drop. Also, the other thing to note here, take a look at momentum. This little momentum is this momentum is not behind the move. If we were to measure this momentum from the dip, let's say this is where the dip started to fall. Okay, so taking a look at momentum here, we're barely at the 38.2 in terms of momentum. Now look at where price action is. Price action is at the 50% fib, which means that momentum is lagging behind the move. It's not ahead of the move. And so that being the case, since momentum is not behind the move, it suggests it's an unhealthy move momentum-wise. You want momentum to be ahead of it because it can act like this sort of force or gravity that's going to pull it along with it there. But since momentum is not behind this move here, then to me that suggests that this move will not be too easily sustained. It'll eventually find another sell point and then sell off here. And so that being the case, and to answer, to kind of slim back there to OK Ned's question, if the cloud is thinner, is that better? No, not necessarily. In fact, I think it's worse for a sell for the downside. I think that means there's a greater chance of there being a downside sell-off after that. And that kind of goes with this momentum here. If it was thicker, since the cloud is acting as support and resistance, then this would, if it was really thick here, then that would mean it would be more of a harbinger to the bears really taking control, because they'd have to chew through a lot more resistance or support here. But here there's not as much. So if they were to dice through it, that means they dice through it a lot easier. So always think of the cloud as support and resistance, and then try and extrapolate from that. You know, this thing is kind of an intuitive one here. It's also one where you got to really think a little bit. And so, you know, even though we may get a medium crossover, we don't want to take the trade until we break the resistance in this case. And so hopefully that answers your question. All right, so getting into euro yen, is there anything on an intraday? No, the move is gone at this point. So happened about 4 hours back. But the whole point is that if you know how to use this, then you can make these kind of trades here. So that's what I'm trying to teach you as well. I also actually have a signal provider service called Cloud9 Trading, just based on Ichimoku trading and some proprietary combinations I have. All right, so let's take a look. Harry's got a good question here. Nice to meet you, Harry. So you want to look at Kiwi dollar. Let's look at the Kiwi dollar. Okay, so right now, this thing is trudging along. We did have a crossover way up here, so it would have been a weak crossover. Sorry about that. I had to have some tea. Okay, so it is below the cloud. The cloud has acted as resistance. And this nice little confluence of lines here has also acted as resistance. So it offered a really good day trading opportunity. When you see the lines kind of all acting as some sort of confluence, the 20 EMA, the Kijun, and the Tenkan line, oftentimes that means that it could be a very good make or break point. So it's a chance to do a fade off of that, or to wait for a break. Now, I wouldn't trade the break because we'd be inside the cloud. However, when you have the cloud and all these lines coming together, that can often be an excellent resistance point. And it did. It acted as a nice, excellent resistance point. In fact, there's one other. Let me take a look at a longer time frame this to satisfy your palate. And then I want to go over a couple other pairs where this did exactly that. And in terms of this right here, the crossover, same thing happened below the cloud. We don't have a confluence, but what I do think is nice is that all these lines are kind of coming in around 78. The reason why I think that's important is because on this most recent up move, 78 was a fib level. In fact, every 100 pips was a fib level. So to me, 78 is a very critical level. Also, every time it broke a fib, it went back to the previous fib. So here it broke the 38.2, it went to the 28.6 here, and then as it broke here, the 50% fib went back to the 38.2. So now we've broken the 6018. We'll probably head back to the 50 fib with all these lines here. 78 is going to be a very critical level for this pair. So keep an eye on Kiwi dollar. Hopefully that satiates your analysis there. Now, I said I would take a look at some things that the Cloud and the Confluence came in together, and where was that? Okay, so here we kind of have a good example of that. The pair did find support right at the Cloud, which was also, I think, 38.2 or 50% fib of this little leg of the move here. Now, when you have confluence of like all three of the lines coming in, along with the Cloud support and a fib support, ooh, I mean, you're talking you got 4 or 5 jurors on your side there, basically. You know, that's boom. That's a really good verdict we want there. So, you know, take a look. We had this fib support here. It actually bounced off the 50 fib. But we have this fib support. We have all these lines here. Right now, even though they're not turning sharply, the momentum or everything is really in favor right now. The line of least resistance is up, not down. So, yeah, there you go. You're welcome. No problem. So, this right here, because it would have to break through all these lines, that means it'd be really tough to chew through all this. So now the 38.2 and all these lines become a very, very good support. Again, the crossover here could be quite interesting. Now, what other ones that I have? I had several others where this is happening, where the confluence, here we go, same thing. 20 EMA, Kijiji or Tenkan line here, and Kijiji line all almost at the same level. It's not at a fib, but it's all very potent. This is a make or break line right here. Kind of interesting how it just stopped right on all these little lines here. So if it continues to find support here, then this would be a critical buy point, and a break of these lines would suggest a move back down to the Cloud. So usually when it breaks below all three of the lines, it usually means it's going to make its way back to the Cloud. Same thing here. Now it treated all of them as resistance and went back into the Cloud here. So this is how you can start to kind of tweak them as well. Harley, are both spans A and B at 52 periods? No, they're not. The first one is 26 periods back, and then the second one is at 52 periods. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so now we got a bunch of other things we have to cover here. We've covered the Chiku span. Let's take a look at pound dollar. Pound dollar to me is in a no-fly zone right now. Other than sells. Excuse me there. Too many ums. Okay, so here, notice how the resistance was these lines the whole time. Really just tracked all these things here. It just became too much of a defense for this pair to really mount any sort of big launch back here. It did pretty much make it to its bear target. It made it really, really close to its bear target. Close enough in this case. You know, very much like horseshoes, we got close enough. We got points off this one here. But right now, it's under this major threat here. With these lines kind of just slanting down this angle, everything is bearish. You would not want to be buying it. If you were to buy here, it's very risque. And so that being the case, I wouldn't do it, even though we do have this quadruple bottom. I'm not a big fan of this right here, because all of this right here suggests that the sellers are really in control. Momentum's down here. There's nothing really in the favor of pound yen dollar. Let's take a look on an intraday time frame. Same thing here. We had a weak crossover here. When the thing kind of gets choppy like this, like where it's up one day, down one day, up one day, down one day, then the Ichimoku is not going to be necessarily the best thing. The Ichimoku is great when we have consolidations and then massive breakouts, or we have very strong, powerful trend moves. Because the whole point is that the Japanese traders want to do the least amount of work and get the most amount out of their trade. And so they also want to be very efficient. They don't want to catch any of these false breakouts or anything like that. They really want to catch moves that are going to be sustained for long periods of time. Now, on an intraday chart, the Ichimoku will still get you in plenty of moves here. We did have a crossover right here, and boom, it gets you in this nice move. But the whole point is that it's not interested in getting moves where it's going to go up like this and down like this right after another. It wants to get you moves where the order flow is heavily in your favor. And so hopefully that answers your question there. All right, so pound dollar, I think we've satisfied that one there. Boom, we're getting all kinds of questions here. Let's keep moving on. The red line, will it be resistance and how strong is it? The red line is the lesser likely to want to be resistance. However, the white line will more likely be resistance. Also, I keep the 20 EMA on there as well to track with it. 20 EMA is just a hot EMA. And so that being the case, because it is such a powerful EMA, I will always use the 20 EMA pretty much on almost any single chart unless it's like euro pound on a 15-minute chart because it's not going anywhere. So combined with the EMAs here, the Tenkin line and the 20 EMA will most often be your more powerful resistance. Notice how it does track it as it moves through here. It acts as that little shield. And this is, you know, very much like a 10 EMA, except it's a 9 EMA. And so the combination of these two become very powerful. When all three of them are together, that's a very powerful resistance there. So hopefully that answers your question, Kanas. I've answered the cloud is thinner. What are the best time frames for the Ichimoku? My favorite time frames are the 30-minute, the 1 hour, and the daily charts on this one here. Daily charts, be prepared when you do get an Ichimoku signal on the daily chart, you're probably going to be in it for a minimum of 1 month to be in that trade there. And so hopefully you got some patience. The other thing about it is that you're going to want to have smaller positions than normal because this thing is going to have a little bit of swings. Japanese traders are patient. They have no problem with being down 150 pips if they're going to make 400 or 500 pips on the target. No problem. So, I mean, the last signal it gave on the euro dollar, it made 1,000 pips. And so, you know, this thing is a menace when it comes to daily charts. On intraday charts, 30 minutes and 1 hour, to answer your question there, Boyke, I really like it a lot. Your profit targets on the intraday 30 minutes to 1 hour, that your profit targets generally around 50 to about, I'd say max you're probably going to snag out of it is about 130 pips on a 30-minute chart. But that's also very powerful. If you, on a 30-minute chart, can grab 130 pips, you're probably only talking, what, 4 or 5 hours? It's a very good day there. So hopefully that answers your question there. Profit net, this is your first time here. Any chance I can do a quick recap? I got something better for that profit net. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my email address. I'm going to send you a link to an article I wrote, which is on FX Words about it. And I can also send you a PowerPoint presentation, which will cover all that. But I'll just go over real briefly. This blue thing here is the cloud. This acts as support and resistance. The other lines I have here, the blue line is the 20 MA. This is my momentum. And this thing looks like a MACD crossover. The shorter line crosses over the sharper one. But I will talk about the qualifications of the signals later too. So for anybody that wants that, I will give you my email. If you email me, then we can go from there basically. So, all right, great. And Delicious, cool name. Any place I can read on the subject, since I'm in a cloud on how it works. Yeah, same thing with the emails there. I'll send all that information to you there. Harley, I think I've answered your question. Are these indicators available on NT4? Probably depends on the version of NT4 you have. In terms of that, I don't use MT4 for my FX trading. I use it for other things, but I use IntelliCharts for my FX trading. If anybody's interested in IntelliCharts, I can let you know about that. And so now that you're all begging, asking for the email address, let's do it. Bam. All right. So, oh, wow, you didn't even get it. Let's try it again. There you go. All right, so I am working on possibly having that coded, my version of the Ichimoku Cloud coded for MT4, but my programmer is so busy right now. I got him working on like 6 different projects right now, so there will be some time, but hopefully I can get that done soon. False breakout today was the news out of the UK? Yes, it was. All right, so how do you identify false breakouts of the clouds? Very simple. Where the crossover takes place is the qualifier there. So if the crossover to the downside occurs above the cloud here, then that's a weak signal. We want to crossover inside the cloud for a sell signal or below. Again, think of it as support and resistance. So if the crossover occurs inside the cloud, then we've chewed through at least a good portion of the resistance. There's not much order flow left. But if we do it above the cloud, we're getting a sell signal above support here. So that's a weak one to us. The other thing is if crossover occurs below the cloud, then we've chewed through all the support. We have clear skies ahead, basically, for this thing to fall. Same thing with the buy signal, except it's just the inverse. So buy signal, we want to cross over inside the cloud or above the cloud. So hopefully that answers your question there. So Boyke, I think I've answered this, but why do I not have a DL line, the Chiku span? Because I think that we can qualify without the Chiku span. I've often found it to be not too useful. I think the qualifier of the medium and the strong signals filters out the need for the Chiku span. And also the other thing about it is that if you use the 20 EMA and the momentum in your favor, I think using those in conjunction create the need for no longer having the Chiku span line up here. I found the Chiku span is really, it's kind of doing just one job. And I'd rather have the 20 EMA up there, which does like 3 to 4 jobs for me. So I want to have the least amount of indicators up there possible. Instead of having 10 indicators up there, I'd rather have 2 or 3. You know, and so I'd rather have 3 powerful voices to give me really good information instead of 10. So hopefully that answers your question there. And so a lot of people had that. Hopefully that answers Will's question as well. And I have a hard time getting to the website. Could I go over pound yen? Sure, let's do it. This is from my man Al Lyons. Good to see you again, Al. All right, pound yen on intraday time frame. It did have that explosive breakout. Remember how we were just watching? What was it? This candle just opened up 4 minutes ago. Look what happened. The pair went right to the cloud top, found support, and boom, cloud top was also right at a round number, very positive. And with all these little lines here tracking higher, suggests that this was going to find some sort of support here, and now it's going to re-head towards the 204 at this point. Momentum has not peaked, and usually when it, if momentum has not peaked, then we're not at the peak in the move, and so it suggests that there is more leg to this move up here. And so right now, if you are in this trade, you could probably put your stops right just below the cloud where these lines are at, basically. Hopefully we can get some more upticks in here so this comes up to right about here, and then we can put our stops just below that. But right now it looks like it wants to retest the 204. If I take a look at the daily time frame is close to activating a sell signal. It's not quite there yet. There's a big spread between, there's about a, there's about an 80 pip spread between the Tenkan and the Kijun line right now. Now the top of the Senku span, top of the cloud comes in right at, here, let's take a look. I think this is where the top of the cloud is coming in at, 203.28. Let me double check with my display data. 203.16 is where the top of the cloud is coming in at. And the Kijun line is at 203.54. So if a crossover was to occur, this pair would have to sell off very hard and very fast. And we need this 203.54, this Kijun line, to dip below into the cloud. It would need to dip about 30 pips for it to do that. So if we had some hard selling here, then that would be very, very beneficial and possibly create a downward cross, a medium strength sell signal cross on the pound yen. It's really iffy. It's really almost too close to call at this point. And because it hasn't broken below the cloud, which is also right about at 200, it's kind of sandwiched in between the cloud right here. So we're in a no-fly zone right now. But the line of least resistance is downward right now. All we have is the 200 below in the cloud, and we're done. Whereas here we got these 3 lines. We got 205. And so that's where we're at on the pound yen. Hopefully that answers my question from my man Al. So, all right, great. Moving on. What is the significance of the 2 cloud colors? I don't have 2 cloud colors. I have 1, but the lines are different here because it's measuring Senku span A and Senku span B. So hopefully that answers your question there. I think that I got that one there. Bam. All right, so let's move over to some other stuff here. All right, so fantastic. Thanks, Prof. Nick. Good. Glad to answer that question. Email address. Hopefully you guys got my email address there for you. All right, so Jeff here is saying it took you 15 minutes to get in. Hopefully everything's better now. Pound US dollar, should we ignore Kanana? Should we ignore all those crosses? Do you have one specific cross you're referring to there, Kananas, on the pound US dollar? So you can give me, that'd be great. VTrader is much better than MT4, can switch currency pairs quickly. Great, thanks for that sound effects. All right, great. So we're free of questions right now. All right, cool. So let's move into some other pairs that are potentially things right now. I think I've covered Euro Pound, so let me get rid of that bad boy there. Excuse me on that one there. Covered Euro Pound. And all right, great. Let's get over Euro Pound on just an intraday time frame. Now we're going to move on to some other pairs. Okay, so maybe we've gone over this one here, but yeah, we have. Okay, so it did find some support right at the cloud point. We have this crossover here, so keep an eye on this one here. This is kind of like a make or break line for it. You have two make or break lines here, right here. But right now, it's kind of stuck in this little area here. It hasn't created a bullish crossover yet. It wants to, though, but it's just not quite there. Aussie dollar, if the chart loads. It's trying. Okay, Aussie dollar got sold off. It got beaten down pretty heavy last night. Selling there. My platform is Oenda. My platform is not Oenda. I actually have several different platforms depending on whether it's my managed funds, my private funds, or my own personal funds. So I can talk about platforms later, or you can email me about platforms. I'm happy to talk with you about that. Aussie dollar on the intraday chart, it is broken below the cloud. It has treated the key or Tenkan line as resistance. It's continuing to sell off here, so this is very bearish. Aussie dollar's just lost ground pretty much all day today. Lost on the Aussie CAD, lost I think on the Aussie yen. No, it didn't lose on the Aussie yen. It's lost a little bit on Aussie Kiwi. So it's just losing as a whole right now. There's some decent Aussie sales close to the 94.70 area, just shy of the 95. As we move to a daily chart, take a look at that though. We have this very interesting confluence of lines here. So this pair has been kind of in this upward wedge. Oops, that's not it. That's my zoom in tool. So this pair has been in an upward wedge here, and it's really trying to figure out what is the next move. We're about 85% into the wedge, and generally wedges only go to about 90–93% max. It's very rarely that wedges go all the way to 100%. It almost never happens, particularly on a daily chart here. So we're very, very close to seeing the final verdict on the Aussie dollar. Is it going to break and really clear 95 and head towards the 96 and 99 figures, which would be the next upside targets from 1981? Or is it going to break down towards the 9,000 level again? So this right here is kind of its first real major line of defense along with trend lines here. If we see a heavy spill out of here, we could see some rapid selling on this one here. All right, so that covers my Euro Pound, Aussie dollar. Pound Swiss is close to activating one on the dailies, but it's not quite there. But we have to be on alert for this. This is a high alert potential sell signal because look at where the Kijun line is. It's inside the cloud. So if we were to see massive selling here, then that means that the Tenkan line would turn fast. It would cross over here as soon as we were to break the cloud. And how nice, the cloud is coming in right at $2. So if we were to break $2 and the cloud and have a nice daily close below it, that would create a fresh impetus for us to be selling as long as we have the crossover. Targeting 196, I think, would be your first target. This one is a very possible sell signal. This is on our watch right now. So keep an eye on this one here. I've covered Pound Swiss, Pound Yen. We've covered that one there. Let's see, any new questions here? Boom, boom, boom. Did we do Dollar Swiss? I think so. And if not, that's one of my hot ones for today. Okay, Dollar Swiss. Oh, good Lord. 2.5 hours ago, we would have caught some massive, massive moves here. So this thing crossed over, it broke out of the daily ceiling, went for a huge explosion up here. But all these lines are tracking up, found support at the Kijun line or Tenkan line, and has bounced a little bit since then. 20 EMA is climbing at a very fast pace right now. It's probably going to settle out a little bit, but it looks like it might be settling now above the infamous 105 here. So if all these lines were to start to track up here, then this becomes a very interesting support for the pair. This pair has been trying to break to the upside, and it now is starting to really gain some momentum. I think this is close to, oh, we're not at the highs yet, though. We got to get back up here. However, we have broken, I think, all the fibs on this one here. Yeah, so we've diced through this 61.8. However, we're now sitting right at it. So it's really trying to challenge us here. But right now, everything is in support of this for right now in the short term. And let's take a look at it on a daily chart. Okay, we're coming pretty close to the close here. So now this one also, even though everything is in the bullish mode right now, this thing also is on an alert for a potential medium strength sell signal, because if it were to sell off, notice how the Kijun line has just been moving flat as it's been tracking. If it were to sell off massive, like for say 400 pips, we'd have a crossover inside the cloud. That's a medium sell signal. We need to have a daily close below the cloud for us to actually create a final sell signal. And if it happens, boom, we'd be in going towards the bottom there. Yes, we can conclude in 5 minutes. Not a problem. We're almost wrapping this up here. So can I give the settings on the lines in the cloud? Sure. The Tenkan line is a 9 EMA. The Kijun line is a 26 EMA. And then the Senku span is, all it's really doing is measuring the Tenkan plus the Kijun line, divides it by 2, and it's 26 periods. Usually the charts measure the Tenkan, the Senku span A 26 periods back, and the Senku span B is measured 52 periods back. So hopefully that answers your questions there. And Andrew, if you want a website that'll give intro to the techniques, you can email me and I'll send you some information about that as well. It doesn't matter what direction. So Andrew, if you have my email, email me. I'll give you plenty of information on that. Sound effects, doesn't matter what is the direction of two lines and the angle when they intersect. You know, the angle is actually can be very important. It's not as important where it is with the 20 EMA per se, because the angle on the 20 EMA is really used to measure the speed of buying and selling. However, with the Tenkan and the Kijun line, you know, usually those crossovers, if you have a medium strength sell signal or a strong sell signal, the crossovers are usually around a 30 to 45 degree angle. The sharper the angle, the better, of course, because they are moving averages. So therefore, they're going to actually tell you the relative speed at which it's being bought or sold. And so hopefully that answers your question there. Angles on moving averages are very, very important. Is this the standard settings to Mabel? Yes, it is. And do I have time to explain how I use the momentum indicator below? I use momentum in a very standard measurement for my momentum models, but I also have some proprietary ways that I use it. The main thing I like to do to track with momentum is I'm trying to see is momentum ahead of the move or is momentum behind the move. Just like when I throw a ball up in the air, this is a little physics. When I throw up a ball up in the air, it has upper momentum from the moment it leaves my hand. Now when it actually hits its highest point in the sky, the momentum is not at its peak. The momentum is already pointing downward and actually started to fall, because we need downward momentum or force to stop the upward movement. And so therefore, because an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by a force greater than or equal to. And so that being the case, the momentum has to be, particularly the gravity, has to be pulling it down and increasing to such a rate that it stops the upward motion and then drags it back down. So hopefully that answers your question there about momentum. That's the basics of how I use it. If you want to know further things about it, then you can email me and maybe we can talk about it a little bit further there. So that's pretty much it. I don't necessarily use momentum crossing above or below the zero line to be one particular signal or another. That's not how I use momentum. That is one way that it is used, but I'm really trying to determine by momentum, is the order flow heavily in my favor or not? Is it showing a heavy divergence or not? Momentum is a leading indicator, and so I like to see it leading. If it's lagging behind the pair, then it shows that the move is not healthy. So hopefully that answers your question there. All right, great. So I think we're pretty much towards the end of it, so I want to thank everybody. Thank the usuals for coming here. Thanks all for your great questions. I'm just going to give you, again, my email address for those of you that did not get it. If you have questions about this, you're welcome to email me. I have a link to an article I wrote, plus I also have a PowerPoint I can email you as well. And so also the website that I'm at. I actually have an entire set of signals based upon Ichimoku Cloud Trading and some of the proprietary versions of it that I've created here. And that's called my Cloud9 Trading. If you have any questions about that, you're welcome to email me. I also have systems as well for those of you that are interested. They pretty much cover every single pair you could possibly imagine, and the systems are a beast. They're absolutely beast. It's made more pips in the first quarter of 2008 than I did in all of 2007, and so I'm just uber excited about that. It's also part of my White Knight managed funds as well. So interestingly enough, the only other one of my favorite persons to listen to on FX Street is Andre Pahar. He's the Black Knight, and I manage the White Knight investment fund. So kind of interesting how we're both the Black and White Knight. But so thank you all for coming. You're all awesome. Thank Maud and FX Street for this. Big round of applause for them. And so this is a weekly class. I'll be doing this every single Tuesday, and giving live trading steps if there are, keeping you apprised as to which ones there are out there. And so that's pretty much that. And so I also got a class on Friday called Banging Around the Bands, which is a premium session there. So hopefully I get to see you all for that. Other than that, I want to bid you all adieu. Thanks for coming. Thanks to FX Street. And I will see you guys either on Friday or I will see you next week. Take care, everyone, and good hunting.